Welcome everyone. Today we'll talk about the corporate level strategy in this presentation. So yes, what exactly is corporate level strategy and how does it steer away a corporation, perhaps a company, into the desired objectives or the goal. So basically we'll be talking about the directional strategies in this videos. Now what are directional strategies? We are talking about concentration strategies as in to foster vertical growth and horizontal growth. These would be the focus of this presentation. Remember, it's a corporate strategy. Corporate strategy is always for expansion, always for growth of a company. So that can be done only via vertical growth or horizontal growth. Remember, vertical growth or horizontal growth. So problems with acquisition, let us perhaps starts as in inorganic growth. If I want to grow as a company, I can acquire another company, and that would be the inorganic way. Or the other way around is I can grow on my own as in the organic fashion. So first and foremost thing with the acquisition problem is the inadequate evaluation of target. Now this is very interesting. Why? Because when you acquire a company, the company's philosophy, aims, objectives might be completely different, if not identical, or somewhat different, if not identical. Now what we are trying to do, this is where the company's ethos, perhaps the work culture will collide and may not work in tandem. So we need to properly evaluate such issues, and there might be hundreds of issues. For example, how the company works, as in the financing issues would be there about it, how the work cultures of the companies are differing from each other's. It might be completely casual, it can be completely hierarchical or formal, it can be completely automated or absolutely manual, the way you want to go around it. Remember, for every mergers, there would be tax implications. And what are the successful actions that needs to be taken to mitigate both the companies and form a single entity. Ineffective due diligence process might result in paying much more excessive premium than what the company actually desired for, eventually making your balance sheet weaker. And that is what the turmoil will be always around here. Now let me come to the reasons for diversification. Right? Diversification is all about incentives. It's all about resources. It is all about managerial motives. Remember, when we diversify, we make much more of a revenue. We make much more presence in the market. We utilizes our complete internal resources in an optimum fashion. And most importantly, we will look for managerial employment risk and probably growth of the manpower that is within the company's premises. So reasons for making acquisitions, why do we make for it? Simple and straightforward thing is to have a new capabilities. Simply, when you acquire another company, it might be good in distribution, it can be good in production, it can be good in a different geographical location. So we are trying to develop new capabilities, develop new markets, develop new resources, reshape the competitive scopes. Definitely, yes. Increase diversification, lower risk of deploying our resources or probably developing a new markets or a product thereby. So we are basically sharing our risk altogether. Increasing speed to the market is one of the viable requirements for acquiring another company. Cost of new product development, as I already said, so overcoming the entry barriers. If you have a company, acquiring a company in another geographical location, perhaps a new country, you have already there, you are overcoming the entry barriers and increasing market power. So there are plentiful of reasons for you to acquire a company, namely to develop new capabilities, reshaping competitive scope, increasing diversification, lowering risk, increasing speed to the market, cost of new product development, overcome entry barriers, and increase market power. So, what is market entry strategy? One and the foremost thing is acquiring another company which is operating successfully operating in a different market. Next is probably licensing your product or licensing your operations to another franchisee thereby, or perhaps you come and enter with a two joint ventures. So there is one company and there's another company, they make and form a new company, and that is what is a joint venture. So acquisition is a strategy through which organization buys a controlling interest in another organization with an intent to make acquired property a subsidiary business. Licensing is a strategy where the organizing purchasing the rights to use the technology in the process. Joint ventures are a strategy where the organization joins hands with another organization to form a new organization. Remember, one organization, two organization, and a new organization thereby. So Problems with acquisition, what are they? There might be extraordinary debts, there might be extraordinary liabilities. Firm takes on significant debt to acquire a new company. Then this is what we need to understand. It might upset your balance sheet. High debt can increase the likelihood of bankruptcy, lead to downgrade in firm's credit rating, preclude needed investment in activities that contributes to the long-term success of the company. Now that is what we need to understand. Now, what are they? It might be too large a company that you are acquiring, too large in terms of operation, too large in terms of scope, too large in terms of understanding the financial implication or probably balancing the resources thereby. So you need to understand what are the additional costs, and that might exceed the benefits of economies of scale. Large companies requires tighter bureaucratic control. You need to have processes in places. Formal control often lead to relatively rigid and standardized managerial behavior. Why? Because managers is not willing to take a risk beyond a certain capacity as mandated altogether, will go by rules and regulation, which might actually impede the growth or profitability of the company in the long run. So you need to understand it becomes less flexible, more rigid, and that leads to less innovation, not only in product but also in the process. There is this problem with too large of an acquisition that a company makes forward. So now let us understand that horizontal growth. We were talking about the vertical growth where we were acquiring a new company or we were growing on our own, as in the market size, the incentives that we are talking about, managerial resources we are talking about, the implication that we are talking about it. Let me understand now. We'll talk about the horizontal growth. Till now it was vertical growth. Now we will talking only about the horizontal growth, right? So what are we looking out here? Let us understand the factual natures of what exactly we'll be talking around here. We are talking in terms of a hospital and giving you a glorifying example to understand not only the horizontal growth but also the vertical growth. So let's say in a hospital, now what are we looking at? It should have a radiation department, diagnostic department, hospice, physician groups, ambulance care, long-term care, and home health. Now, these are the things that a hospital is supposed to cater. Now, if it is going through the general industry environment, what are we looking into it? We are talking about unrelated diversification outside the healthcare. Why? Because a hospital needs to have a restaurant, perhaps needs to have a health and fitness center, parking lots, shopping centers, office buildings, and laundry. Don't you think this is pertinent to the operation of the hospital? But remember, hospital is where you are treating the patient, you're treating a victim, you're treating illnesses, which is basically comprising of the radiation, diagnostic, hospice, physician, ambulance care, long-term care, and home health care. So outside the industry, what are we looking into? It's unrelated diversification in terms of restaurant, in terms of health, fitness, parking lots, shopping centers, office building, and laundry. But what happens within the health industry? Now, this would be related diversification, as in pharmaceutical, medical supplies, insurance, managed care, medical schools, other. So here it is within the related diversification that the hospital business can go around it. So this will tell it to you what can be a vertical diversification and horizontal diversification. So this is vertical diversification, and unrelated would be a horizontal diversification that comes around it. So yes, we're talking about the vertical growth is full integration, taper integration, quasi integration, somewhat integration, and backward integration and forward integration. In cases of hospital, the backward integration would be having a medical school. Forward integration would be having, let's say, medicines or pharmaceutical factory or pharmaceutical manufacturing facility, and so on and so forth, or research and development facility that needs to be furthering the interest of the medical science. Now, these are my directional strategies as far as vertical growth is concerned. Talking about the directional strategies, let us understand the basic growth strategies. As in horizontal, it can be concentration and diversification. Concentration is current product line and doing nothing else, only focusing on the current product line, perhaps increasing the product line, perhaps. So that is one way out to go around it. Let's say in hospital, if you are a specialty into cancer or oncology department, can you go to the heart department or bypass department or the cardiology department? Can you have another segment called the kidney department or the nephrology department. So this is what we need to understand. That would be vertical. Next is market development. Market development is when you are present in market A and want to make a presence in market B and C. So you are going for developing market. We are developing the product. Did I say about the cardiology department, of the nephrology department, the oncology department, and the penetration thereby probably looking for existing market, but ensuring that even the last patient or the last victim or the last customer is able to serve or access your services. Then comes the diversification into other product line in other industry. Did I say in a hospital, a restaurant is also required because it is not only the patient or victims or the illness that needs to be cured, probably their friends, families who will be visiting them needs to have some kind of refreshment, and we can have a restaurant business out there. Strategic alliance is a cooperative strategy in which firm combines some of their resources and capabilities to create a competitive advantages. Remember, in a hospital, if a restaurant has been opened, there's a captive audience that is readily available, and the restaurant is not supposed to be a star-class restaurant, probably a fine dining restaurant, but probably a restaurant which provides healthy snacks, healthy food at a convenient rate. Because there is no marketing involved, the restaurant can make a decent profit around there since there are not much of an inventory that is required. So the strategic alliance involves exchanging and sharing of resources, capabilities, co-development of distribution goods and services as the case might be. Now, basic diversification strategies would be concentric and conglomerate. There are only two types of strategies that we look into it. Now, in terms of a raw material consumer value chain, if we go around it, what has been happening from raw material, we go to the intermediate manufacturers who actually assemble it, then that goes to distribution and the end user consumes it. Again, remember, from the raw material, we actually have an intermediate manufacturer who comes up with the product. The product needs to be assembled and come with a finished product which needs to be distributed, and the end consumer reaches it. So this is upstream, and this the end users would be a downstream per se. Let me come to the conglomerate and the concentric diversification one by one. Let's say go for concentric diversification. Growth into related industry is concentrated industries. Hospitals, you're going into oncology specialty hospital, multi-specialty hospital, nephrology specialty hospital. That is concentrated growth only related to the industry. Search for synergies then and there. Obviously, yes, if you have an hospital businesses, you know how it operates. It needs to be up and running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So there are no breaks in between. Now comes the conglomerate. We have spoken about the concentric, which is related diversification. Conglomerate will be unrelated diversification. Growth into unrelated industry. Let's say the hospitals, forget restaurant. Don't you think we require a parking lots? If there's a parking lot needs to be maintained, managed, it can be monetized also, definitely yes, and there can be an n numbers of, if it's a 500 bedded hospitals, you require nothing less than 700 800 parking vehicles slot, and that's a huge number. Why 700 800? Because 500 room itself should bring around 6 to 700 of a vehicles for them to come around it, right? Plus, what about the staff? What about the doctors? So you see, for a 500 bedded hospital, we require 7 to 800 parking slot, and that's a huge amount of space that has been consumed, which can be monetized. So growth into unrelated industry, concentrate with financial consideration. Now this is concerned with financial consideration, and this time I have spoken about the hospital, not giving you an example of a restaurant, but about a unrelated, even restaurants is an unrelated business in the form of a parking lot. So incentive to diversify is the internal incentive. Poor performance may lead to firms to diversify, definitely yes. Firm may diversify to balance uncertain future cash flows. Firm may diversify into different businesses in order to reduce risk. Yes, if each operations of a hospital or your businesses can be monetized, the idea is everybody is making money. It becomes a win-win situation for the organizations and will be very difficult to put it down. So now, there can be problems with acquisition. What are they? They must be too much of a diversification, of too many of informations, of too many of diversity, of too many things to be managed. Probably you will not be able to handle such kind of diversification. This might strain on not only on human resources, this might strain not only on our financial resources, this might strain only not only our operation resources. May I say what it has been straining upon it? Everything, including your reputation. So acquisition may become substitute for innovations altogether. That's something which should not be compensated. So directional strategies, we have spoken about the growth, we have spoken about the stability and retrenchment. Growth we have spoken, concentration is all about vertical and horizontal. Diversification is all about concentric and conglomerate. So concentration, vertical and horizontal, diversification, concentric and conglomerate. Let us come to stability strategies, wherein the business is running good, up and fine. Everything is making money. So do you change, tinker with the business? Probably no. You pause and method analysis that comes around here. So pause and proceed with caution. No change in profit at all. That is what we are looking into it. Turnaround strategies is where we are talking about the captive companies, sellout, divestment, bankruptcy, liquidity. Your business is no longer doing good. So what do you do around it? You hive off the business, you rent it off, you sell it off, you sell even the total business, if not possible, the total business, part of the businesses, as I said. So we are trying to sell it off, bankruptcy, liquidity, probably going to the government and announcing yourself that you are a bankrupt company, or otherwise put in more money, trying for a turnaround altogether. Then that is what we should be looking around it. So yes, we have spoken about the reasons for diversification. Remember, the reasons to enhance strategy competitiveness is what we are looking into it. The incentive, the resources, the managerial motives. We are looking for economies of scale. The more we produce, the lesser the cost will be. The more the uh, services are being procured and probably served to the customers, the bigger the reputation is. Automatically, the business is going to be quadrupled. No need for marketing initiatives. Market power, financial economics is what we are talking. Reasons for diversification then and there. So expansion adaptive strategies oriented towards growth. That is to expand, to cut back current status, concentric within current industry, diversify into other industries. Growth as on when on basis, expand through internal development, acquisition, mergers, strategic alliances is what directional strategies is all about it. We are talking about expansion and adaptive strategies thereby. So now how to make acquisition? Why to make acquisition? Because there are barriers. Because there are still barriers. Now, one way to open the barriers is to acquire a company, because that will establish that entry barrier is removed completely. So barriers to entry include economies of scales in established competitors, differentiated product by competitors, enduring relationship with competitors, customers that creates product, loyalties with competitors. Acquisition of an established company may be more effective than entering the market as a competitor offering an unfamiliar goods or services that is there to buy, and cross-border acquisition then and thereby. Now, the restructuring, if we have to look into the retrenchment strategies, perhaps can we do about restructuring? Let's say, can we pull back from diversification? Look what has been happening. This building has been cut into half, and probably we are pulling back from diversification, attacking competitors on core business only, where you are doing good, what you are good at it. Only let that business stay with you, and rest of it can be diversed off or can be spun off. Diminished strategic advantages, vertical integration and diversification. Other one would be contraction strategies, as in exit strategies. We are talking about selling of a business or moving out from the business, as in retrenchment or divestment is concerned. Harvesting the business, as in halting any more investing altogether, and probably let the business run off and make as much money as possible before it dying down on its own operation. Liquidation is cease operation and write off assets, as in selling the business altogether. We'll talk about the alliances, strategic alliances. You remember, this is a buyer, this is a buyer. What are my support activities? What are my primary activities? Remember, for your competitors, they are more or less the same thing. You need to understand horizontal complementary strategic alliances is formed between partners who agree to combine their resources, either the primary or the support activities. Either of them needs to be merged altogether to create values. Focus on the long-term product development, distribution opportunity. The partners may become competitors requires a great deal of trust between the partners. Why? Because the partners knows ins and out of the operations of the competitors altogether. So there is to be a trust which needs to be built in. Why there are strategic alliances? Because some of the operations needs to be assembled together and probably assimilated all together, so that the cost is not only shared, but there's an increased efficiency within the operation wise. Problems with acquisition is inability to achieve synergies. This is one of the major problems. Synergy when assets are worth more than they are used in conjunction. That is what we are looking with each other. When they are used in separately, synergies exist when 1 plus 1 doesn't make 2, but 1 plus 1 makes 11. When synergies exist, the assets of one company, the assets of two company, when they accumulate, they become a bigger asset. So that is what synergies would always be all about it. Firm experiences transaction cost. Example, legal fees. When they acquire strategies to create synergies, firm tends to underestimate the indirect cost of integration when evaluating a potential acquisition, unfamiliar to the buyers as the case might be. And last but not the least would be a cross-border acquisition thereby. Now, reason for making acquisition, learning and development is one of the major reasons why we acquire, because we come to know about the process, we come to know about the new market, we come to know about the technology, we come to know about the reputation that needs to be leveraged out here. Acquisition may gain capabilities that firm usually does not possess. Acquisition may lead to acquire a special technological capability as a tech know-how, broadens firm's knowledge base as in R&D, reduce inertia as in customer acquisition cost is concerned. With this, I come to an end of this presentation. I hope everybody has understood what is corporate strategies thereby. Thank you for watching this video till the end.